A group of tax inspectors used to walk into my restaurant, order whatever they wanted, eat, drink, and then leave without a bill. And if I ever pushed back, they had about 100 ways to find something wrong with my restaurant and fine me for it. And this was one of the first lessons I got in entrepreneurship. And it wasn't the last time someone was expecting my work for free. Welcome back. This is the series where I talk about parts of entrepreneurship nobody and nothing prepares you for. And this week I'm going to talk to you about what happens when people you know, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, expect your work for free. I'm going to tell you 3 stories. First one, from the beginning of my entrepreneurial career, running a restaurant in Romania. Second, years later, right here in Luxembourg, with someone that I was genuinely considering a friend. The third one, to which I just got an ending to, after waiting for 10 years. Different countries, different decades, however, the same underlying pattern. By the end, I would like to give you a way to think about it without turning bitter, just a little bit wiser. Let's go back to the beginning. My very first business was a restaurant in the city of Sibiu, Romania. I was young, and there was a habit left over from the communist period, which nobody warned me before I actually started the restaurant. A group of public officials, inspectors from the local tax administrations, a few colleagues together, would regularly come into my restaurant, order what they wanted, eat, drink, and then get up and leave. No bill, like ever. This was treated as a completely normal. This was a habit that was left from the communist period, where this kind of people with an influence, with power, could always find a way to make your life difficult if you didn't cooperate. A missing stamp, some documentations that were not in order, and then you would get a fine that your business couldn't afford. So you had a choice that wasn't really a choice: to absorb the cost of feeding almost every week a table of 4 to 6 people, or take the risk of getting a fine that could threaten seriously your business. Honestly, that was the most stressful period as an entrepreneur. And I'm close to 30 years in entrepreneurship, so that's a lot of experience that I went through. Now you might think that, okay, that happened in Romania, this could never happen here in Luxembourg. And it doesn't, probably not like that. However, the underlying pattern of people expecting your work is theirs for free just because of their position or because of who they know, that part travels. Fast forward many years later, I was running Languages.lu here in Luxembourg, and I had in my life someone I was considering a real friend. I was bringing her with me to the events I was personally invited. I was supporting her business. I was introducing her around. Things you do for people you actually care about. One day she asked me for an estimate for a proofreading job of a translation that she did herself. So I sent her an estimate based on what the general look of the file was. But when the translator started to work on the file, he was a British native speaker, he realized that the file was just a mess and it really needed a rework rather than just a review. So the final invoice got a little bit higher than the estimate, which is totally normal in our line of work, because that's why you're just estimating, and then you look at the final number of hours that the person worked, and you have your final invoice. So when we sent her the invoice with the explanation of the situation, that it really needed rework, etc., the situation just got out of control. She got furious, not disappointed, just furious, and refused to pay. She just sent us a very cold email, like we were not so close friends, just a super cold email that she refuses to pay based on the fact that we sent her a certain amount in the estimation, and that she refuses to pay. So needless to say, this was the end of our relationship, which was extremely disappointed for me. You know, such an investment in a relationship that just is over because of this of an invoice that your friend doesn't believe that it's the true value of your work. And just to prove that this pattern really does repeat, here's a bonus one, because this story just got its ending a few months ago. About 10 years ago, someone working for the Romanian embassy, and yes, I'm Romanian too, registered her son to one of our language camps with activities. So we sent her the invoice, the camp started, there was no payment, but given her position and the fact that I'm closely supporting the embassy in a lot of projects, well, I didn't really get involved, so the administration just sent her polite reminders. And when you have about 100 kids and parents coming in every week during a few months, it's very easy to to leave aside the financial part and just focus on the operational side of the business. So to make a long story short, she never paid, and a few months later she actually left the embassy. And when we sent her some more reminders, we noticed that the email wouldn't work anymore, and it would be just an error, a delivery error. So we just assumed this was the end of the story. But some months ago, I received out of nowhere an email from her asking if I was still organizing events for women in leadership, if I could please keep her in the loop. So I let you sit with this one for a second. Here's what connects public officials from post-communist Romania with a friend who wouldn't cover an honest and fair invoice with a person who would disappear on an invoice only to resurface a decade later to ask for a favor. All of these people have considered that my work is negotiable in a way that their own position wasn't. Nobody walks in a bakery and expect the bread to be handed out for free just because you know the baker, right? But somehow service work, creative work, expertise, advice gets treated like it's something elastic, like the price or the deadline, it's something to be negotiable, especially once there is a relationship or a title involved. And I want to be clear about something. My message is not about being cold or transactional with people that you care about. The people who actually respect you don't expect you to subsidize the relationship with your business. So what do you do with this? I'm not going to give you a script of how to say no to friends or colleagues or acquaintances. That's not the point of this series. What I'd like you to understand is that you need to notice the pattern, because those people who expect your services for free or who always expect a discount just because of how close they are to you or how important the relationship is, this tells you a lot about the type of persons they are and not about the cost and the value of your services or products. And the sooner you can see this pattern clearly, the less it costs you both financially and emotionally. I'm genuinely interested. Has this happened to you? Someone expecting you to work for free for them or to get a huge discount? Tell me in the comments. I will read each one of them, and some of the best stories will shape some of the future episodes of this series. If this was useful, don't forget to subscribe, because every week I'm going to cover one thing nobody told you about entrepreneurship. Some stories are funny, some rough, but always real. See you next week. Same channel, same honesty. One more thing nobody told you about entrepreneurship.